Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation and recording that basically has the warm-ups for the questions of the day and the answers that go along with them for the lessons for the second half of the warm packet cycle that we are currently on. Please remember that your task and your goal is to write down the questions and the answers as they appear so that you can earn full credit. Before we continue to the next question and corresponding answer, please let me encourage you to open up to the correct part of the warm packet template and to fill in the questions and the answers as they appear. Please be advised that these questions and answers correspond to the lessons that were taught accordingly. Let's go and get started. What is the Middle East like? And provide an overview of this unique and complex region. So while you type that down, basically this question seeks to help us understand more about this unique region in the world. You may not know this, but the Middle East is actually located between three major areas of the world that make it in many ways consequential and important. And in world history, the roots of our deepest history actually come from the Middle East. So let's go ahead and get started. In terms of location, like I alluded to before, the Middle East is located between Africa, Asia, Europe, and the world. The main thing that makes it really important is that when you think about some of the ancient trade routes that combine to form our understanding of how the world was connected, the Middle East is at the heart of it all, and some of the greatest cities have been embellished in the trade routes and systems of the early world. In terms of geography, the Middle East is defined by deserts, steppes, mountains, and plains. And although there's little water, the fact is that their geography is in fact unique and diverse. In some parts of the Middle East, by the way, they can actually experience snow at certain parts of the season. In terms of their people, they're unique and eclectic groups of people without and throughout the Middle East. You might find Arab, Turk, Greek, and even Asian. The fact is that the Middle East is not one caricature. There are so many different types of people that combine to form the culture of this region. In terms of its religion, yes, there are three major religions that combine to form understanding of the Middle East, from Islam to Christianity to Judaism. When you take a deeper look at all three of these religions and faiths, you'll understand that there's a deep story behind all three that helps us make more sense of the world and how it used to work and operate, and how these religions might have interacted with each other. In terms of history, the Middle East is the oldest formal civilization, with some of the oldest civilizations from Mesopotamia, which we had talked about earlier this year, that stemmed into mighty empires. Now, they had controversial development too over time with different factors, some internal, some external. The Middle East, however, is really consequential today, and there are many controversies surrounding it. From wars to humanitarian crises to terrorism to refugees leaving the region and instability. The most important thing here that I think conveys these points and stories might be the media. So we will try our best to do a little bit more of a fair and balanced coverage of some of the misconceptions and myths that exist about the Middle East to understand more about the real culture of this unique region. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question of the day for Thursday and Friday. This lesson here asks us, what is Islam really like? And what are the essential features of this unique faith and religion? So before we get started, please let me encourage you to think like this. Islam is a unique religion for many different reasons. Not only is it one of the oldest religions in the world, but it does have different defined cultural practices that separate it from any other major religion. Let's look at some of these things right now. In terms of faith, Islam has a heavily subscribed to faith and following from around the world. Now, even though it's one of the oldest religions in the world, you could find practicing Muslims in all parts of the world today, from the United States of America to, of course, Africa, and even in its most populous country, Indonesia. There are many practices that Muslims take as well. There are many devout Muslims who, for example, might pray 5 times a day. And in many ways, different Muslims practice their obedience to Islam differently. So, some might have a strict interpretation of the rules and guidelines. Some might have more of a loose interpretation of the practices that they embody. In terms of worship, mosques are heavily important to the people of Islam. All throughout the world, you might awe at the beauty and the wonder of several different mosques that have been built from several different materials in several different times of history. Islamic architecture is renowned, and some of the patterns, even conveyed on this warm packet slide, convey the essence of what Muslim and Arabic culture means. The teachings of Islam, too, are unique and diverse. The Quran, for example, conveys powerful messages and stories of enlightenment for Muslims, and in many ways the Quran, or Islam's holy book, also teaches about how a practicing Muslim should act. In terms of the spread of Islam, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that over history, through war, influence, trade, or cultural diffusion, that the faith was spread. And in many ways, Islam was used and sometimes blended into the culture of the people who essentially subscribed to it. And last but certainly not least, today Islam holds somewhat of a unique place in our culture in terms of a mainstream culture as well. Although there are many controversies surrounding the religion, and there are different misconceptions about the faith itself, the fact is that there are many popular traditions that would help us understand more about what Islam is, from popular holidays like Ramadan to traditions like taking the Hajj to Mecca. These are iconic practices that separate Islam from many other religions in the world. So there you guys have it. Those are the questions and the answers for the corresponding lessons for this week. Please remember to finish your World Packet template accordingly and to proceed forward. Thank you very much for tuning in.